Happy Christmas Eve to you Edmonton Oilers fans, at least on the hockey calendars. Trade deadline day just about upon us. Friday is going to be a special day, whether you want it to be or not, as the Edmonton Oilers gear up for the last 20-ish games of the NHL season. Tonight, facing the Montreal Canadiens. But as we close things out this evening against the Canadiens, there will be further action from the Edmonton Oilers, according to almost every single source you can find when it comes to hockey trades in the universe. Well, guess what? We have got another one incoming for the Edmonton Oilers. Roster complications will delay the trade until about 10 o'clock this evening, according to Bob Stauffer, so stay tuned. This is happening, as far as everybody can indicate, but the Oilers have to wait until that magical 10:01 on the clock this evening to be able to allow the rosters to expand and make the move happen, given the circumstances regarding the lineup this evening with Cam Dineen in there and, of course, John Klingberg and Matthias Ekholm both out. So with that, before we get too far, if you are new to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I know I've been MIA for those of you that regularly tune in, but trust me, you see kind of the difference between yesterday and today, and that starts explaining things a little bit there for you. So as we go to this one, we lead off with Ryan Rishaug's summary of the trade coming later tonight. Jake Walman will become an Edmonton Oiler from the San Jose Sharks. It sounds like it'll be a conditional pick and a prospect in the works. Looks like the Oilers will also be taking on the full cap hit, confirming the sense that the Oilers will indeed also be using the LTIR money that Evander Kane has given us this season. So we understood for most of this trade deadline that there was a really big chance that Evander Kane was going to completely screw this up and want to come back before playoffs. But it looks like the Oilers have sorted that situation out. They have made their upgrade on defense. Again, Jake Walman, I'm not going to get too excited about this. We'll break it down more once we understand what the trade cost was and everything. This is just something that will be coming later tonight after I'm long in bed. And, well, we'll see what everybody thinks about it once we actually know what the price was. But it's nice to see the Oilers actually actively sought out a top four defender on a team that, you know, maybe the acquisition cost might not be as high. I'm hearing from everybody there on the sources that it's possible that it is a first round pick or a caliber player going not Matt Savoy, but somebody of the like. I'm not sure who we really got. I guess Sam O'Reilly, Bo Akey maybe. I don't know how that all breaks down, nor do I really care at this point. There's kind of a hockey game. I'd rather go win first. But yeah, as it sits, Jake Walman's obviously a guy who Bob Stauffer on the pregame show this evening was talking about, just an excellent skater, a guy that can get you out of your zone, and maybe not exactly what the Oilers need, but maybe the guy that kind of shifts the defense away from being a culprit as to why the goaltending isn't as good to being a reason why now you can judge the goaltending for what it is, if that makes sense. And that's not Bob Stauffer's words, that's me putting together and summing up kind of what Bob said versus kind of what that should mean. And I think definitely for the Oilers, kind of eliminating all other factors from the roster affecting goaltending is a priority at this trade deadline as well. I know upgrading the defense has always been a priority, but one thing that was also mentioned is if the Oilers falter in the playoffs because of goaltending, Bob did mention on the pregame tonight, ahead of the Montreal Canadiens this evening, that yeah, there will be drastic changes. And again, rightfully so. I don't think that's ludicrous or nuts or anything for the Oilers to consider just absolutely changing up their goaltending based on the playoffs, because technically for a lot of fans it would be based on 3 years of playoff experience with Stu Skinner and 2 years with Cal Picard, where you just, hey, you know what, you got good enough goaltending to get you all the way to the third period of Game 7 in the Stanley Cup Finals last year, which, again, I'm not going to get too uppity about Stu on that one, but you know how Vegas went 2 years ago, and if we falter like that again here this year, oh boy, look out. The changes that'll be made are going to be massive, and the options should be pretty plentiful for the Edmonton Oilers. So again, to recap for you, it's going to be a conditional pick and a prospect for Walman. That's kind of one or two of those will equate to a first round pick or something. That's kind of the other rumors out there around this trade. It will be finalized around 10 p.m. tonight. The big thing you got to keep in mind there is, of course, at 10 p.m. tonight, the rosters expand for the trade deadline time, allowing the Oilers to kind of play with things prior to finalizing and going into the post-trade deadline push. And ultimately, the hardest part about this is whether you like Jake Walman, whether you like Max Jones, whether you like Trent Frederick, the guys so far acquired at this year's trade deadline, maybe that winger with a little bit of size that we might also acquire for a depth option. It's just been a very tough situation to see the Oilers limp out of first place the way they have coming out of the Four Nations break. The Oilers were, a dominant team for a good stretch. I think it's been mentioned 30 games is kind of where we were the class of the NHL. Whether we were playing a likable brand of hockey or not, we were winning. And now all of a sudden you've got this team that's just kind of toiling like they usually do at the start of the year. And I think that's probably the most frustrating part is we've had two dips in play here this year. One right off the hop where we're very average at best, and a lot of similar issues that we had then are popping up now. And it's just frustration. So you hope that by the time Trent Frederick gets into the lineup 2 weeks from now, you've got Max Jones going and he's kind of creating a little bit of body buzz for the opposition there by throwing some hits. And you got, of course, as well, on the back end, Jake Walman transporting the puck out of the zone a little bit easier than maybe a Klingberg or maybe a Stetcher does. Then all of a sudden it starts changing the course here for the Oilers. And of course a healthy Ekholm as well starts beating the opposition back the other way, away from the goaltending. The goaltending steadies off and kind of gets back closer to that 2.7 mark we were at one point back in, I think, mid-January, before I kind of fell off the wagon here and disappeared. So didn't fall off the sober wagon, by the way. Still riding the sober streak. We were going on 5 years here in August. Anyone concerned about that? But yes, very tough slugging here in the past month for the Oilers. So hopefully something starts changing here with these acquisitions and just a different brand of Oilers hockey, kind of similar to what we're used to, right? A more physical team, whether they're the most physical or not. Anything is better than what we have now, I think, is the characteristic. And suddenly you start winning more games because the other lines are starting to generate a little bit more wear and tear, and Connor and Leon can start dancing around more often than 2 times a game. So we'll see what happens, but Jake Walman, soon to be an Edmonton Oiler here post-game. And after that, we'll go out there and rock. The rest of the season, and hopefully glide on into the playoffs, climbing back up into first place. Everything's great, and we talk about this Edmonton Oilers team all the way to June 25th. So, friends, thanks for being aboard for right now. Though I am up on out of here. I will catch you next one, unless there's some time to talk about Jake Walman later tonight. Never know.